All right, kiddos, this week we are actually going to be digging in to two rules this week. So we're going to have a spelling rule, and then we're also going to have a root. So I'm just going to do a quick lesson over the spelling rule, what it looks like, how to use it, and say some of our spelling words that you're going to have. And then we're going to do a quick lesson over our root, okay? So this week we are continuing in spelling to work on diphthongs. We know this is what we've been working on for a good while, is that a diphthong is two vowels or two letters, even three we saw with IGH, that come together to make a unique sound. It's different than a vowel team because a vowel team follows the rule that if two vowels go a walking, the first one does the talking, and it makes that long E sound. But in a diphthong, like in OI and OY, these both make the OI sound. We learned 2 weeks ago that IGH makes the long I sound, okay? So diphthongs are a collection of letters that come together to make a vowel sound. This week, we are going to learn about AU. AU is going to make the short O sound. What is the short O sound? Aw, okay? So anytime you see AU, it is going to be making the short O sound. So let's look at this word here. This word is haul because I see that AU is going to come together and they are making the short O sound. Ah, haul. Okay? So another word that you're going to have on your list this week is daunt. When I see my AU, I like to underline it to remind myself that they come together to make one sound. And I like to give me a little O with the short U. You remember when we code, like if I code hot, that's how I code my U to remind me that it's short and not long. I like to draw that little O over it just to remind me that the AU is going to make that ah sound. So this says d, ah, nt, daunt. Okay? Another word on your spelling list is, and this is a word we should all have heard at least, is auto. Okay? Auto. So that AU is coming together to make that short O sound. A-T-O. Auto. Okay? So we know that OU makes that short O sound. So now that we've seen a couple of these words, I am going to write out the rest of your spelling list, tell you what the words say, and then I'm going to demonstrate how we would pound and tap a couple of these words. So the rest of your words on your list are all following this AU says ah rule. Now, none of these words have a rule in them that you don't already know. None of the rules in the word should be unfamiliar other than the AU, which is what we're working on this week. So when I look at all of these words, I see that they all have that AU diphthong. And I'm just going to code all of them so that when I read my word, I know that they're going to make that short O sound. So I have, this word is maul. Maul. This is like, I think this is awful, but when I think of like a bear attack, right? The bear mauled somebody, to maul someone. The next word we have here is vault. V-A-ult. That O next to an L kind of makes a funny sound sometimes, like it's like an A next to an L almost. So vault. This is like, I think of like a safe, okay? Like a bank vault or a bank safe, okay? A place where it's locked up tight, hard to get into. You want to keep your valuables there. Audit. The next word is audit. 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 Okay? An audit is usually, I think about taxes, is when someone comes in and goes over all of your stuff, all of your documents, and they check really to be real sticklers, and they want to make sure that you've got everything done just right. So a simpler way of that is like when we write essays and you guys turn in an essay to me and I almost audit it. Okay. It's like I go through there and I really check to make sure you've done everything right. You've spelled everything right. You have all your details that you're supposed to have. So when you audit something, you look through it, you look at it closely, and you're checking for mistakes almost. Okay. All right. Haunch. Haunch. You see that ah right there? Ah. And we know that NCH says nch. Okay. I went to a training, guys, a couple years ago, and the little lady that was showing us about NCH, she said it reminds her of a nightclub, and she likes to go nch, 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 nch. It's like the music at a dance club. She was so funny. Your next word is fraud. Ooh, when you are a fraud, you are being fake. You are being fake. So I have sorry, I have fraud. My next word is saunter. Ooh, I love this word. When you saunter, I like to think of this as a fancy word for swagger. Okay, when you saunter in somewhere, you've got that cockiness about you, you've got that swagger, and you're just kind of walking in like you're too cool for school. You know what's going on. You're all that. You're the man of the room. So that's kind of what saunter means. And then we've got gauntlet. Gauntlet is like almost like a challenge. And so again, I've got that AU making that ah sound. Okay. All right, kiddos. If I were to pound and tap these words, this is what it would sound like. So if I did, let's do haul, number one. I would go haul, I'd pound it, haul, tap it, ah, ul. And I heard that ah sound. And I know this week that's going to be made by OU or AU. Auto, auto. I heard first syllable, ah, tap it, ah, but I know that this week it's going to be made by AU, and then I have toe, t-o, t-o. Okay? So this week, guys, this is going to be our only mini lesson over the spelling. And so this week, what I'm going to have to ask you to do is each day, you're going to have a grown-up call these words out to you, and I want you to practice, pounding and tapping them for me. Okay? Hang on just a second. Sorry, kiddos. I had someone at my door. Okay. So, this week we also have a root. Okay. Last week you were introduced to roots, and we know that they are Greek or Latin in origin, and they will always say the same thing, be spelled that way, and they always have the same meaning attached to them. So when we attach roots to words, it carries a link of meaning with them, just like kind of a prefix or a suffix. Okay. So our root this week is gram or graph. Okay? Gram/graph. I would see these separately in a word. All right? But I know that when I see gram or I see graph, it is going to have a meaning attached to it. The meaning that is attached to these roots is to write or draw. Now, thinking about the root and thinking about its meaning, I want you to kind of brainstorm for a second any words that you might know that have gram or graph in them, okay? One word that I think of when I think of gram or graph is a telegram. A telegram was like sending an email back in the day before they had the internet and technology. They would tap out messages in Morse code that would travel over wires, and people hundreds of miles away could hear them, and they would hear the taps, and they were able to translate it into letters and spell out a message. And so when I think about that, I'm like, oh, they were writing a message, okay? So that's kind of where gram. But think about graph. You see graphs in math and science all the time, and they are drawn out bars or charts that kind of show numbers and what's going on. So when I think about both of those words, I'm like, oh, that meaning makes so much sense. So this week on your spelling test, I will say write the roots that mean write or draw, and you will have to write gram/graph and make sure they're spelled correctly. This week, you have 4 words that go with our roots. The first word you have is just gram, just to know the root, and we know that it means sound or to gram means write or draw. We have telegram, which is what I just described to you. We have a graph, like what you have in math or science. And then your next word is telegraph. And we see tele here, which means far. This was a root that we talked about last week, okay? All right, if I were to pound and tap these words out, I know that my root is always going to say the same thing, mean the same thing, right? But I could type it telegram. Ooh, root, tele, okay? Then I can write my root, tele, second syllable, gram. I know my root. I don't have to tap anything here because I know that that tele will always be T-E-L-E, says tele means far. Gram will always be G-R-A-M, gram means write or draw. Always, 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 okay? So when you pound and tap these, it's more of breaking apart the roots that you're hearing in the word. But like, no, we're just gonna leave it at that. I don't wanna make it any more confusing than that. So just when you pound and tap your roots, you're just thinking about the roots that you hear in the word. You also have a red word this week. The word is, and we should all know this word, that is answer, okay? A-N-S-W-E-R, all right? That will be a bonus on your quiz this week. All right, kiddos, this week, make sure that you're studying. You're going to do a spelling activity each day. And make sure that if you have any questions or you don't understand a rule or how to spell it, please reach out and let me know, okay? I am so grateful to you guys for sticking with me. I know that was a long video, but I wanted to get all that information in there for you. All right, thanks, guys.